Approximately every 5 years, the CPR training industry undergoes revisions and updates to its protocols. It's important to know what the differences are in the current recommendation year as compared to the one that's currently outdated. We're going to be talking about those updates so that you can become more aware of the current recommendations and compare them to the way you were trained in the past. We have several topics, but we're going to start with basic CPR. The CPR recommendations really haven't changed a whole lot, but the re-emphasis is on the rate of compression and the depth of compression. You see, the rate of compression before was at least 100 times per minute, but the current recommendation is that it's at least 100 and no more than 120 compressions per minute. The other emphasis is on the depth of compression. Before it said at least 2 inches deep, and now we have a ceiling. It's at least 2 inches deep and no more than 2.4 inches deep. We've also re-emphasized the fact that though hands-only CPR is better than no CPR at all, for infants and children who are heavily driven by oxygenation, if you know how to do CPR or are willing to do full CPR, rescue breathing and chest compressions have been shown to be more beneficial than just hands-only CPR when it comes to infant and child patients. Along with CPR, we should talk about how to access EMS when an emergency situation is recognized. There's been a re-emphasis, because of all of the different types of technology, that we are encouraging people now to not necessarily spend as much time looking for landlines when they have a cell phone right in their pocket. Accessing the phone is a great way to speed up the time from recognizing an emergency to activation of emergency medical services. It's also important for us to realize that most phones have a speakerphone. So if you can touch the speakerphone button, have the dispatcher actually be able to talk you through the prompts or be there to encourage you through this very intense moment, it's always going to help you to have a better experience as you work through this process. The next subject is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and that's the training regarding CPR. The update currently is re-emphasizing the need for ongoing education, and especially that which is sooner than every 2 years. The current recommendation is that you get recertified every 2 years, but what we see is that people are losing their skills sooner than that. So it's important that they have some way of refreshing their skills more often, and maybe even getting recertified more closely to an annual versus a biannual. I'm sure we'll see some recommendations evolving over time with this, but keep it in the back of your mind that if there's a way to refresh your skills more often, take advantage of it. It's also important that we know how deep we're compressing the chest of the mannequin when we're practicing for real-life CPR. So there's been a push that mannequins ideally will have an intrinsic device that actually will tell you with some feedback device when you've reached that 2 to 2.4 inch depth compression. Now, related to the metronome or the pace of the compressions, that can be done either intrinsically in the mannequin or from an external device. The depth of the compression can also be an external device that's laid over the top of the mannequin while you're doing your compressions. Now let's talk about the topic of how people learn and some very interesting science that's come back when it comes to comparing those who learned via the computer with video-based education and those that were instructor-led in the classroom. See, the science shows that people are learning just as equally well in a computer-based or video-based learning environment as they did in a classroom with an instructor who led them through the steps. But what we believe as well is that because they can pace themselves and they can do it at a time and in a location that's most convenient for them, they are usually better learners and absorb the information better. Now, probably the biggest change to this update was the introduction of the opioid overdose treatment. This is now implementing naloxone treatment, which is better known as Narcan by its trade name. You see, Narcan or naloxone has now become an over-the-counter medication in many states. It can be delivered or administered through the nasal passages or through the intermuscular. Now, what's great about this is that for those people who are in respiratory or cardiac arrest as a result of an opioid overdose, this treatment could reverse the effects and help save their life. So these updates will be implemented in this training, and we hope that it helps you to become more refreshed with those life-saving skills that are so important when a person's in an emergency situation.